When we go for bigger things than we currently have in our life, growing our businesses, making more money, moving into our dream homes or cities, becoming employers, etc., we're immediately faced with this gap, this chasm between where we are and where we want to be. We suddenly become so incredibly aware of how much space and time is between these two locations. But in order for us to realize our most unrealistic goals, we have to close this gap. We have to transform our present reality and ourselves to become our vision of the future. The question arises, of course, I get this question all the time, but how? How do I go from here to there? Maybe that chasm you're facing just seems absolutely unsurmountable. Maybe the people around you are telling you that you're delusional. Maybe everything seems stacked against you. This is a huge and pivotal moment for all of us to declare and commit to our bigger vision. It can also be incredibly crippling to face the amount of transformation that needs to occur. The journey ahead of us to get to that vision in the future is immense. So in today's episode, I'm going to walk you through the process of closing this gap. Because you deserve to defy reality. You deserve to have your most audacious and unrealistic dreams come to life. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. I'm the Entrepreneur Coach, Bree Seeley. My mission is to help female entrepreneurs like you have the audacity to believe in the inevitability of your success, then to gather the resources, tools, and knowledge you need to create your most aligned and profitable pathway to your vision of success. This podcast is all about providing you with a nitty-gritty behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Forget the success porn and the rags to riches stories. Each episode will pull back the curtain and share the reality of entrepreneurship. I cannot wait to be part of your journey. So in 2015, I was absolutely not living my best life. I had just started this business. Shout out to my 9th business birthday this week. After 9 months in business, I had done $3,000 in sales. I had used up all of my retirement money to sustain my life and hire a business coach, but my business was not thriving. Now, I sat down on December 25th on Christmas on top of Mount Hollywood in Los Angeles, and I wrote out my dream vision, which presented a huge chasm between where I was and where I wanted to be. But I knew what I wanted. A week later, I could not pay my rent. And I had a choice in that moment. I had the choice to stay where I was, or I had the choice to step into something new. I knew deep within, in my heart of hearts, that I could not keep going the way that I had been going, especially if I wanted to close the gap and bring that big future vision I had to life. So I had to choose in that moment. Was I going to continue operating the way I'd been operating, or was I going to change my approach? I became so committed to that vision I had written. I knew that there was no other option for me. That was my only option. I had to make it work. So then, of course, it became like, well, what are all of my pathways to get to this vision? What does this actually look like? First, I found out I was not employable. People told me I was too ambitious or that I would be bored working for them. The next thing that came up was that I knew that if I didn't answer that call of my vision, that I would perpetually be unfulfilled. If I walked away from that, I would always regret it. Now, fast forward a month later, I had done $15,000 in sales. Fast forward another 5 months from that point, I had my first $50,000 month. 3 months after that, I had another $50,000 month. Again, but how? How did I do this? How did I close that gap between where I'd been with $3,000 in income in 9 months and not being able to pay my rent, to having my first 5-figure month and consistent 5-figure months thereafter, including growing months of revenue as well? I'm going to be real with you. No one wants to hear this next part. The change that you have to start with happens inside. I had to change who I was. And once I changed who I was on the inside, I was then able to take different actions and thus produce. Now, how I'd shown up in the first 9 months of my business was as a struggling entrepreneur. I was not accustomed to making money in my business. My fashion business had been successful, but financially, I was nowhere close to where I needed to be. I also had the build it and they will come mentality. I thought that since I was super great at my craft, that people would just naturally hire me. And I learned the hard way that that is not how it works. If people don't know about you or the services you provide, they cannot hire me. You could be the best, insert your role here. And if no one knows about you, you can't have a successful business. If I wanted to realize my big vision, I needed to be the kind of woman who offered her services to her ideal customer, who was bold and talked about her offers, who took initiative. I remember sitting in my car taking sales calls between meetings that January, reaching out to mentors to ask them for referrals, talking to community members, offering my voice to local events to get in front of people, asking other people to share the free trainings I was leading. When I talk to entrepreneurs who are making little to no money in their business, it almost always comes back to what revenue generating actions are you taking? And why aren't you taking them? I can almost always tell in a conversation with a new client that they are not taking revenue generating actions. Now, we're going to take just a quick break. I'm going to come back with a story about this, and then we're going to talk about how you can make the changes to get from your here to your there. Pardon the interruption as we take a brief break before bringing you back to our episode. Are you an entrepreneur who feels like you're running a marathon on a hamster wheel each day, but you'd really rather be swimming with the pigs in the Bahamas or having breakfast with the giraffes in Africa? You're getting okay results in your business, but you're ready for exceptional results. It's time to hit the reset button to give your business a makeover and evolve into your next level of entrepreneurship. I want to invite you into the Reset, a 5-day business makeover to evolve your business from acceptable to exceptional. Visit breesealy.com/reset to get free access to this resource that will forever change the trajectory of your business. As I just mentioned, I always know what's going on when a not yet client is stuck in their here, not seeing the kinds of results that they want in their business. I'll give you an example of this. I spoke with a woman several years ago who had been in business for 10 years, but never made a single penny of revenue. Can you imagine? When we dove in, it turned out she was insecure about offering her services. She did not tell people about what she was doing. She was hiding because she was more committed to the narratives and stories she was telling inside of her than she was to becoming who she needed to be to get there. She was unwilling to do all of the things that I listed for you earlier that I did to shift my results. She was not willing to make the changes necessary to close that gap. Now, obviously, this is an extreme case, but I want you to ask yourself, where am I holding myself back from my business because I'm too committed to my here? I totally get it. I did not want to have to put myself out there either. I remember that first phone call to catch up with a mentor of mine, asking her to make referrals to me. It was terrifying. I did it so poorly. I was so afraid the whole conversation she was going to tell me to fuck off. But I had to choose. What did I want more? Did I want the comfort of staying here, creating the same results over and over again? Or was I willing to be scared out of my mind, terrified of rejection, stretching myself to be the kind of woman who had the results that she was seeking? How do you become the person who is living that unrealistic vision rather than the person who just simply thinks about it? Now, I don't want you to judge what's possible for you based on where you've been. If I had done that, I would still be struggling to create results in my business. I would be the best at what I did with absolutely zero customers. How does the you who is living there wake up every morning? Does she get up focused on the past or committed to her future? I had to wake up as a different woman every morning. I had to talk to myself differently. I had to look at myself differently. I had to show up differently. I could not tell the story of being a struggling entrepreneur any longer. I needed to become the their me. How does the you who is living the dream take action every day? What narratives does she tell herself? One of the biggest perspectives I hear from not yet clients is, I don't know how, or I don't know what actions to take. So they end up not taking any actions. And if you remain committed to that narrative, you're not going to take any action in your business either. Inspired actions are a necessary step, but there is no universal template for what actions to take in your business. I recently had a session with one of my coaches, and she reminded me that my blueprint to my unrealistic vision is and always has been within me. So when I'm approaching my daily actions from the blueprint is already within me, I am going to be open to taking different actions than I would if I'm telling myself I don't know how. Who does the you who is living the dream surround herself with? When I was living in Washington, I didn't have a lot of entrepreneurs around me. And when I moved to LA, I had a lot of struggling entrepreneurs around me. I had a lot of, quote, entrepreneurship is hard conversations happening around me, either from people who didn't know anything about business or people that were still committed to staying where they were rather than creating their big vision. Now, everything changed for me when I started having conversations of how could I, rather than having conversations of it's not happening for me. Conversations of solutions and possibility rather than conversations of limitation and scarcity. So what is the first step though to get from here to there? The first step is a very, very, very courageous decision. You have to decide. Do you want to stay here looking towards your there? Or do you want to become the you that is already living her most unrealistic and audacious vision? That shift that I just mentioned doesn't happen in the future, it happens today. The women who joined the last round of the mastermind in January knew that if they wanted to reach their delusional visions, they had to change their approach. They had to change their mindset and they had to change their community right now. Every woman in the container has super audacious and ambitious goals, but the approach they were using was not getting there. Since we began in January, I had one woman launch her first group program and sell out in under a month, but she almost didn't. Her initial actions were the same actions she'd always taken, and she did not get a single enrollment after a month. She was frustrated and called me and said, I've decided not to run the group. Instead, we talked and we discovered a new pathway for her to take. She had to try a new approach, which required more direct outreach, conversations rather than just posting on social media, and she got her first pay in full client within a few days. Within a month, she filled the program. As I'm recording this, she literally started the program yesterday. Full enrollment, and the revenue from this one launch paid for her entire mastermind enrollment, and we still have like 4 months left. Another woman in the mastermind has done 60% of her annual revenue in under 6 weeks. What she did was she had to narrow her focus, eliminate the actions that were not producing results, double down on her offers, start charging for things that were previously free. She launched workshops, landed keynotes, wrote articles, and got way more visible. So my question for you is, what courageous decision do you need to make to get from here to there? Is it mentorship? Is it a new community? Is it redesigning your business to be aligned with your there? What decision will you make today to help you start closing that gap? If you are ready for massive acceleration to go from here to there in your business, applications for the next round of Mastermind are now open. You can email Bree@breeseely.com to request the application. And last but not least, I really want to encourage you to share your insights from this episode on socials and tag me. I reshare everything that gets tagged around the podcast, and I would love to feature you on my socials. Last but not least, I just want to let you know that I believe in your most audacious dreams and visions, those unrealistic things that everyone else around you is saying, you can't do that, that's not possible. Yes, it fucking is, and you can do it. If this vision was given to you, you have what it takes to bring it to life. You might need a little support, you might need a new community, you might need a new mindset, but all of those things are available to you. And I am just so glad that you are on this path towards saying yes to your most audacious vision. Cheers to a fantastic first quarter. I am so excited for you, and I really hope that you email us to get your application to the mastermind, Bree@breesealy.com. See you on the next episode. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. I hope you gained valuable wisdom from this episode and have at least one thing you can act on today. As I always say, listening to this episode will not change your life. What you do afterwards will. Please be sure to leave a rating and a review of the show, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend or colleague who could use it. Last but not least, please have the audacity to believe in the inevitability of your success today. You deserve it.